Good morning, everyone. Reporting in from Second Harvest Heartland headquarters in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, deep into our third month of COVID response efforts. Thanks for joining us. I am Allison O'Toole, the proud CEO of Second Harvest Heartland, and this morning I am so honored to be joined by two leaders in our community's efforts to ensure summer doesn't mean hunger for Minnesota's kids. Krista DeBoer, Nutrition Program Director from Youthprise, and Stacy Copen, Director of Nutrition Services for St. Paul Public Schools, are here this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Krista and Stacy. Appreciate everything you all are doing and can't wait to hear from you. To me, there is nothing that says summer more strongly than kids playing in the park. Quiet basketball courts and soccer fields will feel strange this summer and a little sad. But many folks may not realize that those empty parks will also make it harder for kids to stay fed when school's not in session. In the best of times, many of our kids receive their only meals of the day during the summer through a large web of park and educational programs. And this nutrition and stability provides a critical lifetime to our children who are not receiving school meals for the summer months. Last summer, over 3 million meals were served to our community's kids through these programs at rec centers, parks, and campsites. These sites are closed right now to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. And we at Second Harvest Heartland understand that's the right decision to keep us all safe. But with so many challenges making it harder than ever to feed kids in need, we need to act quickly to create a strong plan for our kids to eat this summer. Today, we are racing against the clock. First, actions needed at the federal level. The USDA has created some flexibility in the ways summer meals are run. New flexibilities that have allowed schools and other nonprofits serving kids meals to offer home delivery or curbside pickup need to be extended. Waivers allowing these critical innovations are set to expire at the end of the school year, which is a mere 3 weeks away. The USDA must extend these waivers through September to ensure the need is met through the entire summer. Second, we can do more at the state and local level to support access to summer meals. Second Harvest Heartland's Child Hunger Team provides technical assistance and other resources to dozens of schools and community partners across the state. We help these partners implement best practices to ensure we're feeding as many kids as possible each year. And with the help of national partners like No Kid Hungry, we've made over 2 million additional meals available to Minnesota's kids over the last 2 years. That's one of the reasons why I say I'm the proud CEO of this organization. And Teresa Mccormack, our Director of Child Hunger, our Child Hunger program, is with me today, and she is doing excellent work with her team. She's a huge resource to this community. So we'll get to her expertise in a minute too, I know, but thank you, Teresa. In the face of this crisis, we are continuing to work with our summer meal partners to secure the resources they need to get this work done and to respond to the new hunger. A heartfelt shout out to all these teams. The child nutrition staff we work with are the frontline workers who may not get a whole lot of attention for the extra work and risks they've taken on. But like every frontline COVID fighting team, they have hit the ground running every day for months to ensure this summer isn't remembered as by our kids as their hungriest summer. We simply can't let it happen. I'll give a quick update on just our stats. We had another big week. Last week, we delivered over 2 million pounds of food and over 13,000 emergency food boxes to food shelves. In total, we've delivered over 82,000 emergency food boxes since the outbreak began. Minnesota Central Kitchen, our partnership with the culinary community to feed more hungry neighbors, delivered over 45,000 meals this week and has served over 265,000 meals since launching. We are working around the clock to meet this growing need that we are continuing to see in our community. Now I'll pass the conversation to Stacy, who will say more about the urgent work of feeding kids this summer. Stacy?
Thank you so much, Allison. I really appreciate that introduction. And I just want to sort of echo what your sentiments were, that this is such a tremendous time of need right now. At St. Paul Public Schools, we have definitely seen an increased need for hunger solutions. And part of that is because, there are a couple of consequences that we're dealing with. One is that there's a void for children who normally have meals with us in our school cafeterias. But in addition to that, we are seeing even more families struggle with hunger. On a quote-unquote normal school day, 2 out of 3 of our scholars are from households that are food insecure. But as the unemployment rates continue to climb so drastically and so quickly here, we are seeing even more families that are in need, and we're expecting that to just exponentially exceed anything that we have seen in history. This particular pandemic has called for a lot of innovation on food operators' parts. There was only about 60 hours of notice from the time that our governor released the executive order to the time that we actually had to flip the switch on our new meal program. And I'm really proud of what our team accomplished. In St. Paul Public Schools, we basically took our school meal program out of the cafeterias and we put that onto school buses and into those curbside pickups for the neighborhoods throughout our city. That not only took a lot of innovation and just a lot of work really on the operational standpoint, but it also took strong partnerships. So our transportation team really stepped up to become part of that school meal program, which is something they had never been asked to do before. And they did so with very little notice. There are some school districts that are really struggling to continue to meet their students' needs. Some school districts are serving even more meals right now than they would during a school day, but there are others that are only serving maybe 10 to 15% of their student body. At St. Paul Public Schools, we are in that category where we're serving even more meals right now than we do on a normal school day. We're currently serving about 350,000 meals a week. When school is in session, we're serving about 250,000 meals a week. But even more important than that, I think, is just a really startling statistic. And that is that when school is closed, we historically have seen a very sharp decline where we are only serving maybe 3,000 or 4,000 meals a day. And to put this into perspective, last summer, all of our meals combined for June, July, and August was just under 300,000 total meals. So right now, during this pandemic, in 1 week where we serve 350,000 meals, we're currently serving more in a single 5-day period than we had for the 3-month summer that we had been trying to operate under. Some of the reasons why school districts are really struggling to meet the needs of their students is because they lack the access to the infrastructure and the funding that would allow them to provide solutions for hunger. Many are operating in school kitchens that maybe used to be a closet. They don't have the room, the space, or the staff to be able to put together meals that work for example, the curbside or the home delivery process. And there, quite frankly, is not any new funding available to cover these very expensive costs that we've all encountered. This program definitely requires food that costs more than we would normally be required to purchase. The supply cost is very high right now. And then also, if you have a model that requires home delivery, those transportation costs, we have to fit that into the normal, very meager budget that's been given to us. I would really be remorse if I didn't call attention to the fact that our normal meal programs, they have historically really shortcut food operators. Not only has the funding been extremely inadequate in my opinion, but the program rules that we were just talking about have been a major barrier to providing solutions for us to really provide a meal program that works for our youth and for their families. So as you said, Allison, the flexibilities that we're working to right now, they have demonstrated that we can put a meal program together that really is a viable solution for children and for their families. we have no assurances right now what will happen on July 1st, whether or not those will be extended. So it is absolutely critical. We need these assurances now more than ever that we will be able to continue this program until school resumes. And frankly, I hope that they will continue for the long term, because we know that this really does work. And when we're talking about hunger, childhood hunger, and how that can affect not only a child, but lifelong, how that can affect, their ability to be a productive citizen, that just goes to say that this work is so important that we just cannot turn a blind eye to that need right now. I have one of my food partners on the line too, Krista from Youthprise, who is also going to share some of her perspective as well. And I'll hand it over to her now.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thank you for sharing what SPPS has been doing in light of COVID and in the past. We appreciate you as a partner as well. For those of you that are not familiar, Youthprise was established in 2010 by the McKnight Foundation to increase quality, accessibility, sustainability, and innovation of opportunity for learning beyond the classroom. Its mission is to increase equity with and for Minnesota's Indigenous, low-income, and racially diverse youth. We really work on mobilizing resources and invest resources in youth-serving organizations and youth directly. The nutrition program itself really started back in 2010, or 2015, I apologize, as a meal distribution hub to really try to operate parallel to the school districts to help serve small to mid-sized community and youth-serving programs in the Twin Cities, with hopes of eventually going statewide. But in January of 2020, we celebrated serving our 1 millionth meal to the youth in Minnesota by utilizing CACFP and summer meals to over 60 programs. But as a non-school partner, one of our main operatives is really to help fill the gaps where schools maybe can't reach. And with these additional waivers that we've been provided, we can see that as a collaborative, we can do so much more working together than we do working apart. With where SPPS is able to reach, where we're able to complement that, it's really something that is of wonder and that really provides the best ample resources to these youth serving organizations. Traditionally, Youthprise operates meals through local libraries, rec centers, community centers, places of worship, and small youth serving organizations. We really try to work alongside the school districts in the districts that we serve, in the counties that we serve, so that each family, each community has a trusted place to go for these meals. With COVID, so many of these places have been shut down because of safety, which we completely back, but now it's released this issue of where do we get our next meal? Where do we find this food? With them spread out so much even more during summer, as Stacy mentioned, the number of those that are accessing these meals drastically drops. And so with the ability to do mass delivery, home deliveries, mass distribution of food, this is really something that builds up our abilities as hunger relief, as family supports, especially in this time when, as you said, so many more are added to unemployment. And many families are just now finding, how do we find meals? This isn't their normal structure. This isn't their normal standing, and they don't know what to do. And so for Youthprise and school districts, especially like St. Paul Public Schools, to work together, we're able to fill out more gaps and to spread out across the map where there shouldn't be spaces in between where families aren't being served. We should be able to fill in where each other where our boundaries end. And that's really something that we strive for. Since the end of March, we've served over 120,000 meals. To give you perspective, for Youthprise, we generally serve 60 sites during the summer. Our busiest month is the month of July. We maybe hit 120,000 meals in July. So the fact that we're not even out of school, we're in this crisis, and we've already reached that threshold is a really huge marker for us. It's really showing that there's this drastic need. There's this increased aspect that we need to fill, that we need to be present for. We've been working with the St. Paul Parks and Rec to reopen a lot of their rec centers just to distribute food, not for programming, not for any other reason other than to be another local distribution spot to help balance out where the meal needs are. So we've really been working with them and with their staff to train them on how to provide meals out the front of their building, on curbside, to the communities that they're seeing need that. Last year alone, the 7 St. Paul Parks and Recs that we served only served 32,000 meals. Last month, they served 3 times that. So the mere fact that we're seeing this drastic increase of meals being needed is so big. Just in St. Paul, that doesn't even account for what we're seeing in Hennepin, what we're seeing in the other counties of Minnesota. So just knowing that we've had to adjust and adapt our service model from traditionally being youth coming up and getting a meal a day to now being parents can come pick up these meals on behalf of the youth in their household, to limit exposure to public entities, to public spaces. That's not traditionally how this program works. A child has to be present to get those meals. And now with these waivers and the way that the government is allowing us to do these programs, we have the ability to get all the food into the homes where they absolutely need to be. Multiple households can come up in one car and pick up their food together if they're sharing a home or if they're sharing an apartment. They're really able to get that. And we're able to distribute to parents or youth. And we're able to distribute multiple days worth of food that's not going to go to waste, that's not going to disappear or need to be thrown away. They can actually consume it over the next week when they need to help supplement those meal access points that families are now experiencing. And we've really worked hard with key rec staff and key site staff to be trained on all of our safety protocols, on all of the setups that they need to make sure that they maintain that social distance, that they maintain the cleanliness, that they maintain the quality of food. We're really working with community partners to serve the community the best possible way we can right now. But next is really a big question. As Stacy said, come July 1st, we have no idea what we can do. And we already have 50 locations across Minnesota that are saying, what are we supposed to do when school ends? How are we supposed to deliver these meals, and what are we supposed to do? So extending these waivers that have proven to expedite and expand the way that meals can be distributed to the families that legitimately are wondering where their next meal is going to come from, those need to be reinstated. They need to be extended. We need to assure these families, these communities, we need to ensure the country really that we can support your families through these programs because of these waivers, and these should become the standard, not just a specialty because of this COVID response, but this is how we should be operating. This is how we should be providing to our communities. So increasing that area eligibility, ensuring that kids don't have to be present necessarily to pick up their meals, that their parents can do it on their behalf, or their guardian, or their older sibling, or whoever they're living with, so they don't necessarily have to go out. And as Stacy kind of mentioned, there's so much more cost that goes into supplying the meals this way, but we're having a better outcome. We're getting the meals directly to where they need to be going, and then no one has to be worried about that. They don't have to be questioning, where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to get this? So really increasing the funds, increasing the reimbursement, adding access in these ways would really help us make sure that we have the proper equipment for sites. As I said, we serve a lot of small to mid-sized locations. Refrigeration and coolers are an issue. We need to be able to supply that. We need to be able to have materials that they can take so that they can help distribute these meals, especially when they're shelf stable, when they're cold storage. So it's easy to go home, put it in their fridge, put it in their cabinets, and distribute. These meals aren't something that we want to see eliminated. We want to see the extension of these waivers. We want to see the extension of the way that we've been able to operate with other nutrition partners, to really collaborate to be the best hunger relief that we've seen in a really long time. It's just been so impactful, and I am very proud to be working with all of you, and I appreciate all the work that everyone's been doing, and I really hope that we can continue with these waivers and with those efforts going forward.
Thanks so much, Krista, and everybody on the panel for your good thinking and for sharing all your experiences. We're going to move to questions now. So if you're on the call, please do post your question. We would love to hear from you. I have one from Robert and Egan that was posted early on in the session. So some of this may have been answered already, but let's say more. He asked, your social media posts mention curbside pickup and delivery for meals. Are other states trying these approaches with kids? And what other strategies are states considering to keep all these kids fed? So I think maybe Teresa and Stacy want to kick us off with that one?
Absolutely. I'm Teresa Mccormack. Like Allison mentioned, I'm the Director of Programs here at Second Harvest Heartland. And we're very grateful for our partnership with No Kid Hungry, a national organization that is really looking at how do we increase participation in all these vital meal programs for kids. And certainly what we're seeing in other states is that the most effective strategies are when we can deploy every tool in the toolbox. And that means implementing every possible flexibility for these child meal programs, as well as implementing every possible flexibility for other federal nutrition programs like SNAP, formerly food stamps. And so we really look to that model as a way forward for Minnesota to be able to meet the needs for our kids and our families.
Yes, and from the school district's perspective too,
Go ahead, Stacy. So sorry.
Okay, sorry. I think I had a little technical glitch there. Yeah, so from the school district's perspective, I would say that, I've been trying to keep tabs with my peers throughout the United States, actually. And there are just a number of different programs that you will see. A lot of those do involve school buses and home delivery, as well as the curbside pickup. And I would say that the difference really is, the available resources for each school district, as well as the needs that are in each particular community. I have not really seen anyone share lately that they're seeing the need decrease. And really the limiting factor is whether or not a school has the ability to package food, how much they can package at one time, and then how they can most effectively and efficiently get that to their students or their youth in their community.
Great. Thank you. All right, we have another question from Chastity in Minneapolis that I'm going to pass to Allison and Teresa. If I had more food stamps to spend right now, it would really help. I could simply buy for my kids rather than find a whole different way to feed them this summer. What can we do about this?
Thanks, Chastity. I'll take it first, Teresa, and fill in anything else you need to or want to. But Chastity, we agree. We think the SNAP program is one of the most efficient ways to help bridge these gaps that families are facing right now. So we need your help in advocating for increased SNAP dollars, eligibility, and that happens primarily at the federal level. And so we can follow up with you offline if you need a little help with that, but we need your help. We want you to use your voice in advocating for these changes. We are certainly doing that. I'll give just one, and here's why. It is an efficient program, but for every meal the Hunger Relief Network provides, SNAP provides 9. So SNAP provides 9 times what we do. At Second Harvest Heartland last year, we provided almost 100 million meals in the Heartland. We can't do 9 times that. The Hunger Relief Network cannot fill that gap. And so we really need your help, Chastity, in raising awareness around this and advocating for change. And especially right now when we are in a pandemic.
Anything to add, Teresa, or does that about sum it up?
I mean, that is absolutely it. Is we need the public's help to really lift this up, and certainly I think the incredible innovation that we have seen from schools and other child meal program operators has been critical, but it's also put a lot of pressure, like Stacy and Krista have shared, a lot of pressure on those organizations. And SNAP can work in a really great kind of tandem with these efforts to ensure that children have full support and families have full support and access to all of those meals. So now more than ever, we really are calling on every Minnesotan to help raise this issue up.
Okay, thanks so much. We have a question from Josie in St. Paul. She's curious how common child hunger is in Minnesota and how COVID has changed that.
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we know that kids were disproportionately impacted by hunger. If you were to have called me up in January of this year, I would have told you that 1 in 11 Minnesotans did not know where their next meal was coming from. But for kids, it was 1 in 8. We're working really hard right now to understand kind of where the chips are falling with COVID, but I can tell you with our work at Second Harvest Heartland for SNAP outreach, we saw almost a doubling of the number of children who were receiving SNAP benefits in the month of March. That has only increased from the month of April. And so we are seeing that families are really being hit hard during that pandemic. And we know that that means that families are making those really painful choices right now in budgets of, do I put gas in the car? Do we pay for medications? How are we going to put food on the table for everybody? And so we're seeing that is only increasing as we move into this third month of our pandemic response.
And maybe, Elizabeth, I'll say one other thing that is a little higher level. Thank you, Teresa, for that. When we think about the need that's coming, we are thinking in months, not weeks. The economic outlook, family stability, jobs, it's going to take a while to get through this pandemic. And so when Teresa's talking about before this started, 1 in 8 Minnesota kids didn't know where their meal is coming from, their next meal is going to come from. That number is increasing right now, and it's going to stay up there for a while. And that's why we need this community to rally together like they are and to help support these efforts with partners like Krista and Stacy and our work at Second Harvest Heartland and the entire Hunger Relief Network, including food shelves and other meal programs too. This is a sustained effort that we need to keep up, and we need help. And I just want to make sure the public knows the outlook. I'm not here to, make things sound rosy or overly horrible, but we want to be honest with you. And that's why programs like SNAP and funding and the flexibility around those school meals are so important right now. If we're going to get through this and be a thriving community at the end of this, we need to plug some of these holes and make sure people have the food they need to stay healthy and to stay safe.
Absolutely. Thanks, Allison. We have a question for Stacy from Julie the Lunch Lady. She calls herself Julie the Lunch Lady in New Ulm. She wants to know if districts in need can be helped by districts with more than enough right now. So if there's any sort of sharing that can be done among school districts to help fill this meal gap.
So I have certainly explored that particular question as well from not only a personal but also professional level. And I think that in part, the question is, it depends. If there's a school district that has the resources and is able to partner with a school district that does not, I can see that being a very viable relationship. St. Paul public schools is quite unique. We have a central kitchen here, which is a very large building where we were able to put these meal boxes together. We basically built an assembly line in the short amount of time that the executive order was issued. And again, we turned our new meal program over. So that's a really unique opportunity that allows us to put those meals together and to have the home delivery option that works so well for families. If you're in a smaller building, you may not even have the space, much less the staff to be able to do that. So that is where I could see partnerships thriving really between one school district and another. And, I definitely put that out there to others in Minnesota, because I would absolutely love, at this point, we have nothing but partners and advocates right now to help us create these solutions. So I guess the short answer might have been just yes. Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. So Julie, the Lunch Lady, it sounds like you might be onto something, and there should be more conversations to come. That's great. Wonderful. Well, that takes us to the end of our questions. We have about a minute left. Panelists, anything that you would like to leave us with? Any final thoughts before we wrap this morning's conversation?
So
I just like to say thank you to all of you for everything you're doing. This is taking our entire community to respond to this, and just appreciate your partnership and all of your efforts to help feed our hungry kids and families during this pandemic.
Yeah. Well, thank you for allowing us to share this, highlight this important work. It really has been an honor to be able to respond to that need. And I very much look forward to, ensuring that all of our community's needs are met and that we can do so with such wonderful food partners.